This is the Dallas Morning News.
Eat, Drink, DFW from the Dallas Morning News is made possible by Central Market.
Hello, and welcome to Eat, Drink, DFW, the podcast from the Dallas Morning News food team. Each week, we take a look at food and drink trends in North Texas, talk about restaurants in Dallas-Fort Worth, learn some new recipes, and sometimes even get tips from you, our listeners. I'm Anna Butler, the food editor at the Dallas Morning News. We'll dive into several high-profile restaurant openings in the Dallas Design District, and later, we've got tips from Nick and Sam Chef on how to sear the perfect steak, just in time for Valentine's. That's all coming up right after this.
Central Market is really into food. Like when we say cheese, it's in 12 languages into food. Butchers, bakers, and sushi roll makers into food. We're talking so obsessive about quality you can shop blindfolded into food. Central Market is really into food. If you are too, then let us turn your shopping list into a treasure map. Get inspired, get adventurous, or just get a chef-made dinner when you've got more taste buds than time. No place makes every meal more amazing like Central Market. Really into food. Shop now at centralmarket.com.
For the latest food and restaurant news in Dallas-Fort Worth, visit dallasnews.com/food. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so email us at eatdrink@dallasnews.com. Today, I'm joined by Claire Baller, Imelda Garcia, and Sarah Blaskovich. Let's start with Delilah. The supper club is now open in the Design District, and you went, Sarah. Is it worth the hype?
You guys, this is the flashiest restaurant opening in Dallas I've seen in years.
Wow.
And we live in a city of flash, I feel like. So this is really saying something. Delilah had its VIP party at the tail end of the ice storm. And to see the fur in these party pics, you know, the outfits that people wore, there are not enough sequins in this entire city to dress all the people in that room. It was really something. So Delilah, for anybody who has not been hotly anticipating this restaurant like me, it started in LA, it expanded to Las Vegas, and then to Miami. When it announced it would come to the Dallas Design District, I said for more than a year that it was going to be one of the most exciting restaurant openings of that year. And then it didn't open. So I was like, okay, Delilah, what's the holdup here? Well, she took a long time to put her makeup on, you guys. But this is a pretty amazing dining room with wood floor to ceiling. There's palm trees painted in gold inside. There are 3 stages for dancers, and there's one main stage in the front for like a big band. And on one of the VIP nights, Machine Gun Kelly performed, and the room was full of celebrities. When I dined there last week, I saw 2 different acts up on the stage, and they played their sultry versions of pop songs. So Beyonce, Chappell Roan, a little bit of classic stuff like some Elton John. You guys, this place is a whole vibe.
Is there like a theme or something? Because I saw an old car. Is there a vibe?
Yes, it is supposed to look like Gatsby era. So it's a 1920s style supper club, and the food is throwback too. So beef Wellington, and then some upscale versions of regular food. Like there's chicken tenders on the menu, there's pigs in a blanket, there's a burger. And you know, you might wonder what the food is like, and I'd be happy to talk through it, but that's not why you are at Delilah. That's like the 4th reason why you're at Delilah. You're there to drink and sure to dine, to listen for sure, and then definitely to look.
And then the 5th reason is to not save money.
You are not saving money going to Delilah. Here is how I look at it after dining there one night. When my husband and I go play blackjack at a casino, we talk about the cost per hour. Right? If you lose all your money, that's okay as long as you agreed that we're only going to spend $50 an hour or $100 an hour. And that's how I look at a casino, which I think is a healthy way to know when it's time to stop. When I think about Delilah, I think about it in the same terms. What would you pay per hour to go be in a room where there are dancers and live music and food and possibly celebrities? It might cost you, Anna, $100 a person per hour, $200, depending on if you're ordering something like the Millionaire Martini. This is a $100 cocktail that comes with caviar.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, but most people are drinking $20 cocktails and ordering shareable food. To me, what you're paying for is to be in the room and see who's there. And to Delilah's credit, to enjoy the show. I just really thought the dancing and the music was extremely fun. And I can't think of any place in Dallas that's like it.
What is it like to get reservations there?
It's tough. I would say if you want to go, open your calendar and then turn it a month in advance and then try to get a seat then.
I think when I've looked at it, it was like, what about 10 p.m. on a Tuesday? And I was like, Anna's asleep.
Yes. Now 10 p.m. any night there is probably super fun. Like that's not when I start to eat dinner either, but we've established this is not for dinner. You will eat, and everybody is eating for the most part that's not in the bar. But what you're going for is the show. And the dancing gets a little bit more risque as the evening goes on. I never saw anything inappropriate, but the dresses changed. You went from sequin gowns to a see-through outfit. And with all of the dancers' dresses, they were wearing these really cool, like Moulin Rouge-esque headdresses.
So just more like burlesque than anything else.
Yeah, but I mean, the last burlesque show I went to in New Orleans, we saw some stuff. And there was none of that, at least, when I was there in Dallas at Delilah. It was tasteful, some lacy outfits, but I didn't see anybody taking anything off.
I enjoy that this puts us on caliber with LA, Las Vegas, and Miami in terms of maybe they love a good time in Dallas.
Yes, I do think that on paper, Dallas is thought to be similar to each of those three cities. Now, those of us who live in Dallas, what do you think about that?
I think it's so weird. We have a lot fewer DJ pool parties unless you're going to the Village.
Yes. Also, something I heard when Carbone came to town, and you could make this same comparison now with Delilah, is that, one of the allures of these restaurants is that a celebrity could be sitting next to you. And that's true. But do we have enough celebrities who are dining on a regular basis in Dallas? Do we have enough Dallas celebrities, not just people coming in from out of town, but people who live here? Are there enough former Dallas Cowboys players to be, at places like Carbone and Delilah all the time? Because that's what you think you're getting.
I also think that celebrities tend to live in a place like Dallas, or when I grew up in Austin, celebrities everywhere, we leave them alone. And so it's kind of a funny concept to me to have a celebrity-driven restaurant like this when the whole idea is we pretend we don't see them in Dallas. Like you walk through Highland Park Village and you're going to see someone who was in a TV show. Unless you're obsessed, you're probably not stopping them for a photo or to bother them. And that's why they like being here.
Speaking of photos, they have a no photo policy. Is it a no phone policy or just a no photo video policy?
It's a great question. I think the policy is whatever you make it.
Okay.
The signs I saw two of them, and they were on the way to the bathroom. So after I'd been in the dining room for, call it an hour, and we'd been looking around, listening to music, I got up to use the restroom and saw those signs. We did not get a spiel from the server saying, here are the rules at this place. I did not see bouncer-like types telling people what they could or could not do with their phones. I did see people snapping a pic here or there. I just mostly saw people using their eyes and ears like to enjoy an experience instead of documenting it. And call me old-fashioned, but there's something really great about that.
That's how I felt watching the opening ceremony for the Olympics for the athletes that didn't have their phones out. I was like, look at them just taking in the moment.
Now that is weird, right? It's so weird. And I love that no picture policy because, if you go crazy, you are safe. Now in the era of social media, you can be as crazy as you want.
Sarah, you also covered the opening of Night Rooster and the story of Chef Shirley. What you wrote was not really a story about a restaurant opening so much as a story about a chef's battle with cancer and how that intersected with this restaurant opening here in Dallas. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, this interview with Chef Shirley was one of my favorite chef interviews in months, maybe more. I had watched Shirley Chung on Top Chef on both seasons that she was on. She was a fierce competitor. She almost won, but both times did not. She is known for her restaurants in Las Vegas and LA. She has worked for many very famous people. She worked for Thomas Keller and Jose Andres, and the list goes on and on. And so when I heard she was opening a restaurant in Dallas, at first I'm like, well, why and how? And then I paused to realize that I remember her very public cancer battle on Instagram, as many of us do. And I put together this same chef that I watched on TV, who then shaved her head on Instagram for all of us to see, is now in Dallas. And so I just really enjoyed the 45 minutes we spent. She's got such a survivor's attitude, but she's still and always has been, I think, a really independent, strong-willed person. As she talked through her cancer battle, it was just really, amazing. She was diagnosed with tongue cancer, and doctors said they should remove her tongue. Now she's a chef. And so Chef Shirley was colleagues with Grant Atches, who famously is co-owner of Alinea, and he too got tongue cancer. And he went to a doctor in Chicago who did not remove his tongue, but went through a whole series of chemo and radiation. And so she called Chef Grant and he made a referral, and she ended up selling her business in LA, moving to Chicago, and going to the same team that Chef Grant from Alinea did. The story of her survival is heart-wrenching. She said she went through so much chemo and radiation that her mouth from the inside and outside was black for months. Certainly she couldn't eat. She had a feeding tube that kept her alive. And she said there was a whole month that she doesn't really remember. It's really hard to hear a chef, someone who thrives upon not only being busy in the kitchen and leading a team, but also tasting, eating, being creative. And all that was gone for 6 months for her, but she survived. You know, she got all of her taste back, which is even more incredible.
What I loved in your story, Sarah, is that she called this her comeback story, that
Yeah.
this is what this restaurant means to her. And so I was fascinated too when you pointed out that across the dining room, there are certain symbols that speak to that kind of rebirth to her, to that comeback. So there are phoenixes everywhere. And I just thought that was really beautiful.
Yes. And she is someone who loves a symbol anyway. You know, she talked about she was born in the year of the dragon. And so was the co-owner of the restaurant. And she felt a kinship with him she's known this guy for 20 years. She's like, we're similar because of that. But the phoenix too, Anna, she said, I was literally burned to ash. You know, my mouth did not work. I couldn't speak. I couldn't talk. I couldn't eat. And then from the ashes, I rose. So how did she get to Dallas, right? Well, when she got better, Andy Hooper, who is a restaurateur from Vegas that she knew, was opening restaurants in Dallas. He had spent years building this 2-story restaurant in the Dallas Design District. In the bottom, he wanted a modern Chinese restaurant, and he wanted Shirley Chung to run it. But she needed to be well. And when he had concepted it, she was battling cancer. When she got better, he asked if she wanted to open this restaurant in Dallas, and she said yes. So this is her first project after surviving tongue cancer. The emails I got and the Instagram messages I got from people about this story were really cool because so many people watched her on Top Chef and didn't realize that she would ever have any ties to Texas, because she never did. You know, she worked in LA and Vegas a lot, and then she had her cancer treatment in Chicago. What's she doing here in Dallas? And then I got a lot of comments from people who really felt something for her cancer story. You know, a widower emailed me and said, my wife died of cancer and I muscled my way through your story because I had to, and I had a good cry afterwards. And he said it made me feel good. So if any of this moves you, I think Night Rooster is a special place. It is modern Chinese food. I know we didn't talk about the food that much because this is not a restaurant opening story, but I do think that the food itself is also worth trying. And you can find this restaurant in the Dallas Design District, as we've established, one of the hottest restaurant districts in town right now.
Claire, you went to a restaurant that has been very much in the headlines lately, that has been one of the hottest restaurants and a darling of the Dallas food scene for a long time, Georgie. And you spent some time with Chef Bruno Davaillon, who is now officially over the kitchen there as the executive chef. What's he changing?
So Georgie's really interesting because, like you said, it's been around for a while. It's not new. It opened in 2019, but it almost feels like a new place right now with Bruno at the helm. Bruno took over the kitchen in November. And now Bruno has been with the restaurant group that's over Georgie for quite some time. And he's been involved as the culinary director in all of their restaurant concepts. But this is really the first time that I think we are seeing Bruno's food on full display, really since Bouillon, the restaurant that he had that didn't make it through COVID. Something that's worth noting here is that Bruno's a French chef. And so you would assume that his food would have a French-leaning direction. But what he said with the new menu at Georgie is that he is going full-blown classic French restaurant here, which I think will be really welcomed to a lot of people. Dallas, hasn't had the most robust history with French cuisine, but there's certainly more interest in it, as we've seen with Momini. And he plans to kind of experiment as he goes, but to really go back to his French roots and essentially reinvent some of what he was trying to do at Bouillon.
This is fascinating to me and exciting. Another French restaurant from a French chef. Can you give us an idea of what he's cooking?
Yes, so something that's also interesting is he's kind of already put some of these things on the menu quietly since he came in November. You can see hints of it. One dish is a halibut with a champagne sauce. It's very classic, and it's is a nod to his upbringing in France. But he's been kind of tinkering with dishes like a onion tart, winter salad that has kind of all the elements you would expect from a very classic French restaurant. And he said that he's not looking to go crazy. You know, he's keeping it, again, very classic. But the menu in its entirety will pretty much in full be a reflection of French cuisine, unlike up until this point where it's kind of had still traces of that new American direction that Georgie was in for a long time.
It was funny because I went a few weeks ago for my birthday and handpicked a few things off the menu that sounded new and interesting. And our waiter shared, he was like, those are all of Bruno's favorite dishes on the menu. And I went to French culinary school, the French Culinary Institute to be specific. And so I have a special place in my heart for French food. I had a venison tartare that was absolutely sensational. And then I had the duck breast. It's the best duck breast in terms of rendering, crisp, all of these things that I have had since I moved to Dallas, but also probably in a decade and a half at this point.
Whoa.
The portions were bigger too, which I just think is funny to note because I think of Georgie as beautiful food, but sometimes small. And like, maybe I don't need to go eat after this. Like sometimes when I go to certain sushi restaurants that have like really tiny, beautiful pieces, but I can't afford to be full afterwards. But the portions were much larger than they used to be. And I thought that that was interesting too. But the execution truly was inspired to me. I was very excited to be there. And so I was excited when Claire and I talked about her jumping into this story because I was like, are we getting a full fine dining French restaurant in Dallas again post Bouillon?
And the answer is yes. Yeah. And Bruno said that he really, though, wants this to be as approachable as possible. He doesn't want the French pretension. He said at this point in his career, he believes you have to be cooking for the real people sitting in the seats, you know. And so I think that will really be reflected in the food.
I think that's going to be a challenge. I mean, a high-end restaurant, a French restaurant with affordable prices. Let's see.
I don't know if it will be necessarily affordable, but it will certainly be approachable, at least.
Imelda, you have got to tell us about the Rio Bravo controversy. I've been thinking about this all week.
This is a telenovela, guys, happening in Arlington. It's crazy. I mean, the owner of Rio Bravo in Arlington, he has been living a nightmare since last week because there was a video that was created with AI. It was posted on TikTok saying that he will give free food to ICE agents. So the video starts with a photo of Rio Bravo restaurant and then a man identifying himself as Ricardo Lopez, the owner of Rio Bravo restaurant in Dallas, saying that his parents taught him to honor those to defend their country. And that's why he will give free meals to ICE agents. The thing is, there is no Rio Bravo restaurant in Dallas. There's one in Arlington, one in Richardson, and two in Fort Worth. The owner is not Ricardo Lopez, it's Ulises Robles. And the photo doesn't match the restaurant.
Oh, no.
So
Isn't that insane?
That this can happen.
it is.
And Imelda, you said that people immediately took to TikTok doing reply videos about their outrage and disgust over a fake video that they didn't know if it was real or not. And I don't know how we're supposed to corroborate these things in real time. I think sometimes we have like the telltale signs that those are AI generated. This doesn't look like it though.
But there was a little bit of letters on the video. It said created by AI.
So it was like jumping in and out of the frame.
But nobody is reading those little letters, you know?
The whole thing's very strange. It has nothing to do with him. It's not his name. It's not anything, but it immediately impacted sales, I would assume.
Yeah, people stopped going there, and a lot of videos, as you said, like this restaurant, we cannot go there. So imagine the impact. It's crazy. I mean, it's scary.
Does he know who exactly was behind it or what the point was?
No, he doesn't know. And he said that he contacted the FBI, but there's no way to know because there are a lot of anonymous accounts and nobody knows who is posting those videos.
You just have to assume it was malicious. Like, I would assume it's some competitor or someone who doesn't like him. It's so strange to me because of how much that not only impacts him, but his employees and everything in between.
Is he in jeopardy of closing or of...
He doesn't know, and he hopes no. it's early to say, because one of the ways that he found to mitigate the impact was he gave free dinner for one night. But there was thousands of comments, people nationwide talking about this video.
You can read about this by visiting dallasnews.com/food. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're sharing tips on how to sear the perfect steak.
Central Market is really into food, like fish flown in so fresh it still has jet lag into food. Our sourdough starter has been around since grunge was a thing into food. We're talking more prime cuts than a greatest hits album into food. Central Market is really into food. If you are too, then we're the HQ for you. Whether you're a make every recipe in the cookbook foodie or a my favorite recipe is reheat type who just digs the delectable, no place makes every day more delicious like Central Market. Really into food. Shop now at centralmarket.com.
Welcome back. In just a minute, we're going to get into tips for searing the perfect steak. But first, a quick reminder to follow our podcast. We want to make sure you never miss an episode. Before we get into these tips, I did want to share a few stats that a spokesperson with Nick and Sam shared with us about how they performed for Valentine's Day last year in 2025. Imelda, do you mind reading the first one for us?
This is amazing. For Valentine's Day in 2025, Nick and Sam sold 1,988 steaks, which is 1,970 pounds of prime beef.
They also sold 1,376 cocktails, which is more than I can drink in a year. I think I can say for sure. And last year on Valentine's Day, Nick and Sam sold 893 bottles of wine.
And what's great about that number is that they served 850 desserts, which is fewer than the bottles of wine that they sold, which is not at all what I would have guessed.
I don't know. Get both if you're asking me.
Yeah.
There are some Valentine's deals out there. We have those on dallasnews.com/food. Valentine's is big business, but there are people who might want to stay home this year. And so Nick and Sam's was like, hey, what if we shared with y'all our ultimate steak searing tips? And so we have those right now from Chef John.
Let me grab my pen and paper.
Hey everybody, my name is John Kleifgen. I'm executive chef at Nick and Sam's. Just wanted to help give some tips for your Valentine's Day. We're going to make the perfect steak for your sweetheart. So the first thing you're going to do is pick which steak you want, and we're going to decide how we're going to cook it. For me personally, if I'm going to have a tenderloin or filet, I'm going to cook that a little less than, say, a ribeye that's got a little fatty. Some people like their ribeye really rare. I don't really like cold beef fat. So that tenderloin, for me, warm rare, medium rare is going to be perfect for the ribeye. I like it just about medium. I can tell you how to get that, but honestly, the thermometer is your friend. Google what temperature your target for is going to be your best bet. You're not going to remember mine anyway. So first tip for me is if you're doing it inside, like I like to do in a pan, preheat your pan. The pan has to sit on the flame for a good 5 minutes at a medium temperature. It doesn't have to be crazy hot. And then salt your steak. Salt and pepper the steak. It is really hard to oversalt a steak. My method when I'm cooking in the pan is I like to flip it pretty often. So whether it's a tenderloin or a ribeye doesn't really matter. I like some grapeseed oil. You can add a pat of butter towards the end, but just start with just a little bit of grapeseed oil on the pan and put your steak in there for 45 seconds and keep flipping it back and forth. And you're going to see the caramelization, that Maillard reaction happen as the steak's browning more and more and more. And it's going to happen kind of slowly. And then after about, say, 5 or 6 minutes, depending on the thickness of your steak, stick a thermometer on there. There's an old wives' tale about sticking your thermometer in steak and it lets all the juices out. That is absolute bupkis. Don't worry about it. Just keep tipping your steak. Get to that for your filet, maybe 125, 130 degrees. Take it out. Give it 5-10 minutes to rest while you pour your wine and have at it. Have a happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you, Chef John, for that. And also an extra special thank you to Chef John, who gave us a call while he was home with his sick daughter. So if you heard a little babbling in the background, it was a baby.
I love that he gave us permission to flip the steak a lot. I struggle when I'm cooking if it's like, hey, leave it alone. And I'm like, well, I'm standing here. I want to know how we're doing. And that's a hard way to brown, onions or something. And so when he said, yeah, just keep flipping it, I'm like, I could do that.
I was going to say that is a meat by meat basis or protein by protein basis. Maybe don't do that with fish, for instance, or chicken if you've got a skin on there, or duck. But for steak, you can flip it every 30 seconds. I'd probably say every minute or so, but that is typically how you get that deeper, thicker crust on it, which is a great tip for all of us.
Also love that you can't over salt a steak. If it seems like too much, you're probably good.
I do the thumb and finger trick for knowing how my steak is cooked. I know by feel and I just give it a poke. I probably shouldn't do that with strangers, but it does sound like a meat thermometer might be a good idea in the future.
Today we're cooking for people we love, Anna. Feel free to stick your finger in that steak.
Give it a poke. And that is all the time we have for today. Make sure to check out dallasnews.com/food for all the latest food news. And we'd love to hear from you. Email us anytime at eatdrink@dallasnews.com. Special thanks to our producer, Julie Fisk, for the news. I'm Anna Butler. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Eat, Drink, DFW from the Dallas Morning News is made possible by Central Market.